Let's go back to the work from home debate. I said it's dropped off the radar from the election because the coalition got skittled with all of the blowback about their federal public servant proposals. But just how bad is working from home for the economy? Now, many people have been writing to me. Look, I'm not against working from home. I think flexible work arrangements, if the technology is in place, if the employer is willing to engage, I don't have a problem at all. I think there are some significant benefits, and as someone who uses the roads occasionally, the fewer people driving from their home to the office and back, if I have to do it, I would have thought it's a good thing. Get the cars off the road. But now we are starting to get some numbers. There is some evidence coming in to back up or to deny the claims that productivity has suffered because of work from home arrangements. And some of these numbers are coming from CEDA, the Committee for Economic Development of Australia. Now, they had a forum yesterday where some international speakers came out. They made the point that the rates of hybrid work are now flatlining across the Western world. But contrary to popular opinion, and this is one study, other studies might say the other thing, but this study suggests, contrary to public opinion, in fact, there have been economic benefits for the businesses and the broader economy from work from home policies. Heaven forbid. Well, James Brooks is an economist with CEDA. He's on the line. James, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Michael.
I haven't always been popular when I've advocated an open-mindedness to work from home arrangements, but your numbers seem to suggest that the sky won't fall in if they remain.
No, Michael, the sky will not fall in if they remain. And what our latest report is indicating is, as you mentioned, the economy is seeing some benefits from working from home, and as you touched on, specifically through commuting. So we looked at people who are working from home and observed that on average they're commuting spending 15.7% less time commuting and working about 10.5% more hours as well as increasing the amount of people in the labour force.
Okay, that's interesting. So, I mean, one of the arguments I've always made is we've got congestion troubles in our big cities. I mean, Sydney, as you know, we've opened this whole West Connects thing, and if you're coming through to the Anzac Bridge from Rozelle, it was meant to be a game changer. Things are a mess. We're importing a huge number of people every year. More and more are commuting from home to work, back to them. So you can't build your way out of this problem. And working from home, even if it's 2 days out of 5 a week, is liberating space on the roads that otherwise wouldn't be there, right?
It is. It's true. So pre-COVID, Australian workers spent on average about 4.4 hours per week commuting, and that number is down. So it's about 3.4 for work from home people and 3.9 for people who are not working from home. But it's important to just keep in mind the scale of this when considering the transport network. We have about 36% of people who say they work from home. They do about 2 to 3 days per week. So in any one day, that number sort of comes down a little bit, which hence why you'd be seeing a small reduction in congestion, but not a complete alleviation.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, there's still stacks of people going to and fro. And there's an argument to be made that, public servants shouldn't be 5 days home a week if they don't have children and don't have caring responsibility. I mean, I'm not saying it should be a right, but I mean, all I'm arguing here with you and discussing here is that it's not necessarily deleterious to the economy. Now, you've somehow put together the time and cost saving that the average worker has accumulated because they're no longer stuck in traffic every day of the week. That's come out at $5,308 per annum. That's not to be sneezed at.
No, not to be sneezed at all. And in fact, our previous research identified that workers were foregoing about $4,400 from their wage for the benefit to work from home. So we see these numbers are pretty closely aligned, and that's a good thing for bosses and workers.
It's just because they were paying for more petrol and all these sort of things that they now don't have to do? Is that what it is?
Look, we only looked at the value of their time, but certainly workers are avoiding, in my case, metro price or, yes, petrol, car expenses, things like that. We just looked at the time saved and how much that was worth.
Yeah, time's money. Okay, so research also shows 80% of the Fortune 500 companies have committed to hybrid models. I think there are some high-profile ones that are saying you come back in the office or you're not going to get a promotion. Okay, but that doesn't seem to be the majority.
Yes, it's not the majority. We have seen rates of working from home pretty stable between last year and now. And while there is certainly high-profile cases of returning to office, which gets a lot of attention, it's not the norm for all companies.
Okay, now people listening will say, all right, but what about productivity? If John or Jane are at home, they're probably doing the washing, they might be wandering up getting a pedicure or getting their hair cut at 2 o'clock, they'd be in the office otherwise working. Surely productivity's fallen through the floor. Well, the numbers you have, and I don't know, I mean, you've got to tell me, but the numbers suggest there has been no loss in productivity. In fact, there's been a 35% drop in staff turnover at the businesses offering hybrid arrangements, so they're saving on recruitment costs and they have improved their retention rates.
Yeah, that's right. So that comes from international research, which shows that hybrid workers are at least as productive as their in-office colleagues and they quit at a lower rate. However, it is important to say that we are still in the process of learning how collaboration and innovation is impacted by working from home. So there's some evidence to suggest online meetings hamper collaboration, but that's why we think in a hybrid arrangement, when people are all together on coordinated team days, you can still get those really important activities done, such as mentoring, innovation, collaboration, and really get the best of both worlds.
One point that my listeners keep raising with me, and it's valid, is for those that have jobs that, shall we say, are vulnerable to cheaper overseas labour doing it. If you are working from home, let's say someone has a very similar skill set to you in Bangladesh or Vietnam, there would be a temptation, would there not, for the business to say, well, all right, John and Jane, you've been great, but toodaloo, we'll go and pay someone over there who's also got a laptop and an internet connect, probably better internet connection than you've got here, to do it for about a third of the price. So there is a risk here for some employees, isn't there?
Yeah, that's an interesting concern and not something we've really researched, but offshoring of labour has been around for some time, right? What we really see here is a deepening of the labour pool. So firms can hire from more people within Australia. And yeah, I guess for those digital jobs, they can look at other places. But in a hybrid arrangement for most employees, that in-person connectedness is still going to be really important, and that can't really be replaced in a lot of jobs.
Okay, so you keep saying hybrid. I just want to re-emphasise this point. Working from home 5 days a week because you're in Canberra and you want to work for the Department of Agriculture, no one's necessarily saying that's a great idea. But if you're in the office 2 or 3 days a week, you're at home for 2, and maybe that reduces your daycare bills, or it certainly reduces your commute time and the petrol associated with it and all these other things, there's the evidence from you and others at this point is suggesting it's not destroying productivity, the hybrid arrangement. For the businesses, the employers, who obviously have to foot the bill, there are actually economic upsides to this, hence probably why 8 in 10 are holding on to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me specify a bit. The research shows that for people with very administrative roles, like data entry, they are very productive working fully from home. However, most jobs are not necessarily like that. Interpersonal team connection is a valuable thing in their role. And that's why we sort of look at and focus on hybrid, because it offers the best of both those things. So you get those retention benefits, you get no sort of change in productivity, and you get extra hours worked for less, mind you. So it really is giving us all these things.
Now, there are other bits of research that would suggest otherwise. I mean, you've seen them as well. I think, to be fair, what we're going to need is more time and more study, are we not, to see really across the board whether working from home is just a sort of a COVID hangover that we should probably do away with, or whether actually it is improving the economic story of the economy.
Oh, yes, certainly. Don't let me pass up the opportunity to advocate for more study into this topic. We really need to understand the mechanisms, like how learning is transferred in a remote environment, because we know that's very important for productivity. However, the evidence is sort of mounting and all pointing in a similar direction with hybrid working from home, that we're not really seeing anything to give us concern about productivity, though, of course, there's always going to be 1 or 2 studies which find something else.
Interesting. We'll talk when the next lot of numbers come out. Thank you, James. Fascinating. Appreciate your time.
Look forward to it. Thank you. Good afternoon.
All the best. James Brooks, economist there with the Committee for Economic Development of Australia. Now,